The war cry for the RCB says, we are challengers, and they're surely proving to be challengers for this year's IPL. This is another episode of End of Days Play, and you're watching Uninvited Opinions. So, Nags, if the duration of the game is left to dictate the duration of our video, this one would be quite short. But we still got plenty to talk about. It was just a game where RCB just blew away KKR in the first 5 overs of the game, and I think by then the game was done and dusted. They began fantastically well. They bowled a test match line and length. It reminded me of India's tour to New Zealand when in 2002 was it, when batsmen were just making a procession rather than actually playing out time. So Mohammed Siraj similarly was just landing the ball perfectly today, moving the ball just enough and getting the batsman to nick off to the keeper or just bowl them through the gate. It made for fascinating viewing.
I would be keen on asking here, where would you point your fingers as to where things went wrong for KKR? Was it really that brilliant spell of bowling up front, or was it some loose batting as well from their side?
I think it's probably a bit of both. There are a couple of shots which they could have avoided. Shubman Gill, for example, considering the situation, went for a ugly hoik and got out. Rahul Tripathi would probably look at the ball he got dismissed and think he could have probably avoided that. But you've got to give a credit his due. There's fantastic bowling from Siraj. As I said, he kept at it. He swung the ball really well. Didn't give the batsman a lot of room. There were no loose balls for them to relieve pressure, and they just kept at it. And not just Siraj. Chris Morris bowled well. Navdeep Saini bowled well. So the Pacers collectively in the first 5 overs put RCB firmly on the front foot, and from that point in time, it made things very difficult for KKR. And that brought the experienced Dinesh Karthik and Owen Morgan to the crease. It felt that somehow they could stage a stand and pull KKR out of this mess that they found themselves in. But then they still had to contend with one of the top 5 bowlers in this tournament, which is Yuzi Chahal. He came on, bowled a wonderful slider to Dinesh Karthik, and that was game over effectively for KKR. It's hard to argue that it's probably just poor batting from KKR. There was excellent sustained bowling from the Royal Challengers Bangalore, which led to those wickets.
It's an interesting passage of play here, because we saw the last game at Abu Dhabi as well, where Rajasthan were playing CSK, and we saw how the frontline bowlers for CSK, Deepak Chahar and Josh Hazlewood, were making the ball talk. And I felt even in the first innings there, Jofra Archer was actually beating Sam Curran's edge consistently. So possibly there is something in the pitch now that has changed in the second half of this tournament, that dew is no longer a factor. And I think the pitches are not so sluggish after all that we hoped that they would be. And I think there is still a considerable role to be played by the quicks on both sides. So that's an interesting change of events and change of dynamics, at least for this venue in Abu Dhabi.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there were question marks for KKR's bowling when they started. They began in a very conventional fashion, bowling out a couple of overs from Patrick Cummins, a couple of overs from Prasidh Krishna, an over from one of their spinners before, Lockie Ferguson, their key strike bowler from last game, the man in form, was even given a bowl. And promptly in his first over, he took the wicket of Aaron Finch. So there were some questions that KKR would be looking back and thinking, okay, did we not see what RCB did? Should we have not followed a similar template, giving our strike bowlers, the option to take wickets early? I think they probably missed a trick. The only option they had of staying in the game was taking 3 or 4 wickets up front, putting pressure on the RCB middle order to chase what was not a very high total. But then they failed to do that, and that allowed RCB plenty of time to just sort of play themselves in. So much so that when Finch got out, they sent in Gurkeerat Singh Mann at number 3 to gain some valuable time in the. He played out a decent innings. He wasn't rushed by the scoring rate, so he made a useful 20-odd runs, which will serve RCB well going into the tournament.
Yeah, I think plenty to ponder on for KKR. We've already talked about the kind of victories that they've had. None of them have been convincing. Well, they have the points in the kitty, no doubt about that. But I think it also needs to be backed by some stellar performances on the back of which they can carry on in this tournament. They still aren't out in by any means. Starting today, they were at 4th place. I think they still maintain that position, but now only by the skin of their teeth. And I think it's a confidence boosting win for RCB. They obviously were third going into the game today, but they had two defeats which were kind of really drubbing. So they now had one game where they could settle the score and kind of do a lot of good to their net run rate. So it augurs well for them going forward. And I think the teams languishing below in the table would be very happy with today's result, because they would now see a great chance of actually leapfrogging KKR in the remaining games. So it's the tournament is spicing up even further.
Absolutely. And I think on current form, you wouldn't put it past KKR to drop off the top four. And Kings 11, the form that they've shown, stringing together 3 wins against the top 3 teams in the last 4 games, you know, it wouldn't be surprising if they get into the top 4, and seal the place for the final playoff. But again, there's still plenty of cricket left to be played in the tournament. So let's see how that goes. And I think the choice for the man of the match had to be just one person. It had to be Mohammed Siraj. He had the most impact on how this game panned out today. He bowled wonderful lines and lengths early on, got the ball to swing. Even he was surprised, that he got those wickets early. He bowled 2 maiden overs today, which apparently is the first time any bowler in the history of IPL has had 2 maiden overs in the same game. At one point in time, at the end of the second over, his figures read, 2 overs, 2 maidens, no runs, and 3 wickets. It was a fantastic performance on and all, and RCB would be really pleased that he's showing this kind of form, which will augur well for them going into the rest of the tournament. Looking at tomorrow's game, it's between the Sunrisers Hyderabad and the Rajasthan Royals, 2 teams who would be very pleased with today's results, because that would basically mean that they would be in a position to stake their claim for the last playoff place. Where do you see that one going?
Tough to choose. As you said, Sunrisers would be licking their wounds from the last game, so I think they would want to stage a comeback of sorts. But Rajasthan also have actually had a victory in their last game, so they would want to take that confidence forward. So I would say it's a very evenly matched context. So it's a clash of 2 equals, and I'm just hoping for a better game than what we saw today.
I'm going to go for Rajasthan. I'm sticking my neck out. So let's see what happens. That's a wrap on today's episode. Thank you so much for watching. As always, if you like this video, please like and share it with your friends. Subscribe to our channel to keep more videos coming your way. And we'll see you again tomorrow. Until then, stay safe and see you.